We're on the cusp of the penultimate episode. Traditionally, an episode where big things happen, usually battles or combat. All signs suggest we're headed towards exactly such a culmination. If you're gripped by the show, even though you know it's going to happen, well, yeah, that's been happening all season for me. That's a sign of good TV or great TV. Given trailers, the novel itself, and where it left off in episode 4, it's very clear that we're about to see some of the most exciting and tragic moments here in episode 5, all in the for the entire season. It's In the Name of the Mother is the name, and it's part of a prayer to the seven, the mother representing love and mercy and other things. This isn't just regular excitement, though. It's nervous excitement. You suspect or even expect, given how the season has gone, that they'll handle this pretty well. There'll be tragic acting, gritty action, maybe some surprises, music and sound that gets us drawn in. We're going to feel things, I think. We all will. If they get it right, it's going to hit really hard. You'll be sad and excited and just whoa. And if they don't get it right, well, then you'll be disappointed. We'll feel something all one way or the other. So let's prepare ourselves and get into the details. Plus, Dexter, Soul, and Cell dropping a Summerhall spoiler just very recently. All that and more on this episode of History of Westeros podcast. Hello and welcome back, everybody. It's another preview episode. Yes, preview episode where we get excited about the next episode, talk about what we expect to come, and not much left in the season, but it's some of the biggest, most important stuff that's left here. This is a season and a story that builds up gradually and has a strong ending. So, yeah, been a great ride so far. We, of course, have our regular reviews on Mondays at 6. We'll be talking about this episode in full then. And in the meantime, you can hit us up with anything you expect or want to discuss, westeroshistory@gmail.com, or hit us up live. The visual and audio medium here, we're looking at the kind of intensity and differences that you wouldn't normally expect from a regular scene. This isn't just like adapting dialogue or what have you. It's something much else, something much different. The descriptions in a book versus what you see on a page are particularly different when you're talking about, martial combat and things like that. It's even more intense for the cast and the crew. It's almost certainly the most expensive part of the season. So that might mean more divergences from the source material. I mean, it will, at least in some ways, but how much? Well, we'll see. Other things just don't translate to the page as easily as, say, just dialogue, right? It's more easy to just copy the dialogue than it is to copy the way the certain lances break or who falls and who hits who in certain spots and making it look just right. Here's our poll for today. Weigh in on what you think. In the book, 3 of Dunk's champions die and none of his accusers do. Will the show change who lives and dies? Will the show change who lives and dies? Your choices are same as novella, different from novella. Let us know and we'll reveal it at the end. Jim Watari sends a super chat, and a lot of y'all wanted us to talk about this, and we did too. We'll have to talk about it more later because it's a very recent piece of information here. I was doing some research on it just now, right before we started, and well, here is what it is. It's a Summerhall outcome thing. Let's read the quote from Dexter himself and then talk about it.
I do know a bit about when Egg's trying to make dragons in the Summerhall, and then there's a huge fire. But we know from George, we know Dunk survives, but we don't know if Egg survives yet. And so thanks for the super chat, Jim Watari, who brought up that he spoiled the outcome on a talk show and that Peter tried to cover for him in it. You can see the video yourself if you'd like.
It's just like a thing that keeps happening in this show. George spoiled some stuff at New York Comic Con, right, when the show was announced for one of the first times about Egg. So, it's all turnabout, right? Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know
That's
that this
hilarious, Disease. I really like that Dexter just gives that as his excuse. Well, you spoiled my reveal.
It's just going to be a thing that everyone does now. Everyone's going to reveal everybody else's stuff, yeah. Never pay attention to any of the media for this show anymore, no. So we've always been under the impression that Dunk died at Summerhall. I was looking at the World of Ice and Fire just now to get the exact wording, and it's not explicit that he dies there. It's just explicit that there's a new Lord Commander of the Kingsguard less than a year later. So, like for Lord Gerald Hightower, is the White Bull is the commander at during the War of the Nine-Penny Kings, which is less than a year or a year-ish later. And so, what maybe happens is he survives, only to die not long after of his burns. Like he just survives badly burned, not like a Quentin, but a milder version of that. So that's kind of harsh, but it could be something like that, which ultimately wouldn't change much at all. It's like that's a pretty loose version of survive, though. That might be that's not too likely what Dexter is talking about, unless it's a real tricky way to George put it to him. So maybe Dunk has a more of a extended coda. It still can't be more than, a year or so, but a year's a lot. A lot could happen in a year. You'd think that would already be in the history books if there was something big, but maybe there's something quiet that happened that didn't make the history books, so that would be why it's not in there.
Well, my question for you is, isn't it technically possible that it's reported that Dunk died there, but Dunk, in fact, does not die there, and that's what his coda is, and then he on the history books say he died there, but in reality, he didn't. I feel like that is possible.
Sure. I mean, if this is really what George said and Dexter didn't make a mistake, and it sounds like it really was, because otherwise Peter Claffey wouldn't have tried to, cover for him, because Peter Claffey did try to cover for him. He's like, oh, that, that's a spoiler or whatever. If it wasn't a spoiler, I don't know if he just wouldn't have said anything, maybe. So I think, that probably did come from George. So maybe it's either a slight change or a clarification that we just were making the wrong assumption about. So yeah, you're right. Like the history book could be wrong. That's definitely one way he could do it. This is interesting because this is a way that George has already been kind of meta in how he's tried to hide that with the whole, some of y'all remember The World of Ice and Fire. The original idea was there was going to be ink spilled on the page as if it was actually on the page in your book. Ultimately, sort of cover up some Summerhall details, as if it was really that way in the Maester's account of things. But the publishers didn't like that idea. It was just too printing problem. So they just had spaces and gaps, if y'all recover in The World of Ice and Fire. It's like most of the sentences are missing. So anyway, we'll come up with some more to talk about with regards to that later when we have more time to think about it. And we'll focus on what's coming up here in episode 5. So combat is often faster than it seems, right? It can play out so quickly. A lot can happen in just a minute or two. But this is the second longest episode at 37 minutes. Episodes 3 and 6, by the way, are the shortest at 31 minutes. The whole season's roughly 200 minutes or so, I think. So if we compare that to the book, get real nerdy with it, there's about 1,900 words of the Trial by 7 in the novella, which is about 6% of the book, because it's 31,500 word novella. So if there's 15 minutes of battle, that would be 7.5% instead of 6%. So that's roughly, that'd be a little more, but not a huge amount more. So I'm thinking maybe it'll land in there, maybe a little more than the 10 minutes, which would be a little bit less. That'd be 5%. So maybe around 12, 15, maybe even more. But we know for sure there's going to be some flashbacks in this one. There's been several flashback scenes from a variety of spots that we have yet to see. And though it's possible to see them in episode 6, this really feels like a strong candidate because of this thing we're pondering right here, where they can't possibly have 37 minutes of the Trial by 7, or could they? It doesn't seem likely. So we're guessing that a good chunk of flashback scenes, perhaps the most yet this season, given there haven't been that many. There's always been some, but they don't occupy a lot of time. In any of these cases, some of them are really fast. So this might be finally where we get the extended ones, which we have seen in the trailers and this season on type thing. So we know they're coming. One we have here is on screen looks like Dunk is about to put on this helm. Bamber Todd, the young actor, he's 14 in this scene. Bamber Todd, just like Peter Claffey is 30, playing someone younger. Bamber Todd is probably not actually playing a 14-year-old Dunk. He's probably playing something like a 11 or 10-year-old Dunk. I think 10 is around the time Sir Arlen finds him. Maybe 9. He's unusually large for his size. So that would work here, but anyway, we'll figure the timeline stuff out later.
You said he's unusually large for his size.
He's unusually large for his size, yeah. He is, that's right. No, he's unusually aged for his large, yeah. Yeah, anyway, y'all know what I meant. So if he's putting this, in the trailer, it shows him like putting this helm on, and then it cuts to regular age Dunk Peter Claffey putting on his helm right before the trial. Now, that could just be a trailer edit, but this would be a cool thing to see in the show if it's like him thinking about that while he's getting ready. That would be a reasonable thing for them to do. Like, in between him preparing for the tournament, he's thinking about some of these things. It's like on his mind, it's psyching him up or maybe making him anxious or both. Now, that might be near the end of the flashbacks because there's another shot with him and Rafe, actually a few different shots with him and Rafe is seen wearing that helm at least once or twice, and at least once when they're outdoors. So if he's putting on that helm, then something could have happened to her, which, well, let's be honest, something does happen to her. They're not together anymore. It's not likely to be a happy ending. They could just get separated. They wouldn't have any way to find each other. That's a simple enough one. She could just run away. She could be badly hurt or killed, or he goes off with Sir Arlen and she's left behind. There's a lot of possibilities, really. It's too hard to interpret from just these pictures, these screen caps, rather, these images. There is some really interesting stuff here with this battlefield that we've been seeing shots of all season and weren't sure about. They're scavenging. There's a tattered red banner. It really looks like a Lannister banner. Which is really interesting because if they're from Flea Bottom, which they certainly are, well, this is nearby. So I'm not really sure what that means. I'm not sure what battle this would be related to, but we'll presumably find that out or have the context to figure it out. It might be something new.
By the way, H-Will 571 clarifies that Arlen finds Dunk at around 5 to 6 years old.
Okay.
A lot younger than this, so that's definitely a change.
Okay, yeah, well,
Absolutely
that damn Bamber Todd is not playing a 6-year-old, yeah. So, yeah, anyway, so changing the timeline, especially on backstory, is they have a little more leeway for that. We don't love doing that, but having them have to have a 6-year-old actor or even an 8 or 9-year-old actor, you kind of got to give them a little leeway with things like that, in particular using child actors, and especially on a violent show, and I don't know. Yeah, like, I think that's how we have to, at least a little leeway for age on issues like that. So here's another shot. They're sitting up in like an attic, I guess this is, or maybe in an alley or under a walkway inside Flea Bottom somewhere. There's a lot of possibility, a lot of hidey holes they could have in Flea Bottom. So doesn't tell us a whole lot, but they're talking and have a little candle there. Maybe they're planning to do this thing where they're outside now. Maybe planning to leave is a possibility. Given there's all these shots of them clearly far away from King's Landing. Well, not far away from King's Landing, but far enough away that, they're not in sight of it or what have you, a day or two, something like that. There's another shot of young Dunk looking over a walkway and a lot of just things that don't tell us much, but they do tell us that there's a lot of different scenes, right? Or at least they're really stretching the trailer into making it seem that way. So there's a shot here with two men holding Dunk. One's holding him by the collar. These like are bullies or city watch. Does that guy have a yellow cloak there? Is that yellowish? I don't know what that is, but they don't look like they're up to helping Dunk and Rafe or whoever else happens to be around. These are probably antagonists. And this is perhaps where we learn how Dunk learned to fight. Right, he thinks of that in the trial in the novella. He thinks of how he learned how to fight in the alleyways and the close places. I forget the exact text, but before he learned how to fight with sword and shield and lance from Sir Arlen, the early like gutter rat style fighting that he had to learn. So we have this shot of Sir Arlen with his 3 horses. He kind of looks like he's alone, riding away from King's Landing, which. That's kind of odd. I'm not sure. You'd think Dunk would be with him at this point. Like this, it feels like this would be the time where he's remembering their meeting, but I don't know. We'll see. Here it looks like he's drinking, which is Sir Arlen. We've already heard that he's a drinker, so that's not unusual. We have a shot with young Dunk at night with his sword, which... he's asleep there. You can see Sir Arlen in the corner, so I don't think that he has permission to do this. Presumably they know each other by this point. And if he's sneaking into the camp and pulling Sir Arlen's sword, that's really quite a move. But anyway, it does kind of make us think a little bit of Egg being around Dunk really early on in episode 1, and has some vibes like that of him playing with his gear, going to train with it in the morning and all that. But we'll see. And that's pretty much it for the flashback stuff. As you can see, there's quite a lot of it. So there's a lot of different ways they could wrap this up into the combat. They could do it all as one long part of the episode. I'm not sure. Like, obviously, I'm not the director here, but you can see that there's quite a bit to show. Here's another shot of young Dunk shivering while there's a fire in the background. Maybe Sir Arlen is giving him the whole, like, martial arts master treatment where you have to earn it. You have to sleep in cold and you have to make do for yourself. Very Spartan or something. Or maybe he is following him. Maybe he doesn't know he's there. That'd be kind of wild, but it's certainly possible. And there's other shots of Rafe, and at some point he's with Sir Arlen and not with her. So that's going to get explained, I guess. Maybe they'll save the full explanation for later. Maybe this is only a partial story, but it certainly smacks of lots of backstory. Let's move on to something else that happened recently. We got Ira Parker read at AMA, and there's just a couple of interesting tidbits here we wanted to share. We could maybe talk about them in detail more another time, but for now, it's neat to get them out here and just have a quick chat about them. Shea will read this first one about the small folk scene regarding Dunk being their champion and him being a knight who kept his vows.
Yeah, I think people had a big outcry about this. We were even theorizing that, hey, maybe it'll be in episode 5 at the very beginning. They need to fluff out for time. Well, no. Here's what Ira Parker said. Honestly, it was a mistake on my part. Not my first, not my last on this show. That scene was in the script at one point, then fell out. I agree that a knight who remembers his vows is the soul of this story. But I think that is still very much at the core of the show, even if I stupidly left out this scene. It may not be said explicitly, but Dunk's actions remain the same. And I think I speak for everyone when we say a lot of respect for a showrunner, for a creative who's able to just acknowledge when they messed up, when something slipped their mind, when it would have been better the other way. And yeah, I think he earned a lot of people's respect for the mistake, funnily enough, right?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that's just how he handles things in the future. He'll make a few mistakes and own up to those few and not make many overall. And yeah, like we would all prefer that to be in there, but okay, such is life. The show's been great. Can't complain too much. And the other one is about Makar's personal sigil. Here's what Ira had to say about that.
Yeah, he said, so far, I've seen fans point out 2 mistakes in this show that I was unaware of. This is one of them. Definitely should have had Makar's. That would have made it so easy to distinguish him in the fog. Whoops! And he also had a number of shorter question and answers that I liked that I picked out for y'all. He was asked, how many seasons do you have a general story for past seasons 1 to 3, if any? And he confirmed, George gave me 10 to 12 stories in addition to the first 3. As we were theorizing that maybe it was 9 more in addition and making 12 total. No, a lot more. And that's just the general story for it. It's not the full story, but it's something. And I think that's pretty cool. He also said his favorite minor house is Beesbury. His favorite armor, also Beesbury. He didn't mention the Beesbury mustache for some reason, that honey mustache. His favorite sigil, Stokeworth, which y'all will remember that we zeroed in on one of the sigils because we were so confused and we suddenly realized it was the Stokeworth sigil of a lamb in a goblet, but they had modified it for this era. And so the lamb is in the goblet.
Do you know how Beesbury got his mustache that color?
I don't want to know how.
With a honeycomb.
That's really good, Aziz. You should share that. Okay, that's very good. Other good things he said. he said that they didn't have the cat's paw dagger because they can't afford luxury items. So that answers our question of who has the dagger. Maybe they get the funding for it later and we see someone else with it. But no, that was a good answer. He said regarding seeing Aemon, Maester Aemon, possible, almost happened, then it didn't, maybe, ... He said stay tuned regarding flashbacks of the Blackfire Rebellion. I think we could have guessed that. I think we would have guessed that. And maybe my favorite answer of the bunch, when he was asked whose idea was it for, the shitting scene and Arlen's large penis, he said, your mom's, which is just hilarious. Love him.
That's right. You can always hit up our website, historyofwesteros.com, to find various ways to support the show, shopping links to Patreon, and other goodies like that. We've got various shots of Dunk and Maekar and Stefan and Aerion and Lionel and Baelor. What we don't have is, at least not yet, is Daron, Raymond, Robin, Humphrey, B, nor the Kingsguard. Now, we have them in other places, and we got a Humphrey Beesbury thing. We got some shots of him from prior to this moment. We also have egg in front of the brazier here. We've got some symbolism. A dragon egg on the flame. How cool is that? Whoa! Symbolism, y'all. Look at that bald head shining in the flame. Oh, it's kind of scary, kind of tragic, but pretty cool too. Good visual there. Now, one thing I'm curious about is the pairings. Who's going to fight who? And that's kind of why my trivia, rather poll question at the beginning was whether they might make any changes to who lives and dies. I don't expect large changes there. That'd be very surprising. I've certainly Duncan Aerion. I don't expect any major change there. And the big one at the end, of course, will almost certainly stay the same. In the show, it looks like Sir Robin is probably still going against Daron like he did in the book. That would put Raymond maybe against Stefan or one of the Kingsguard. Lionel, same. Obviously, Baelor could go against Maekar, which is interesting. We kind of narrowing it down, that's a strong possibility, unless he's able to maneuver himself against one of the Kingsguard and start with a huge advantage right from the start there. We know Sir Humphrey Beesbury goes up against Sir Donald of Duskendale and is killed in the first tilt. That is maybe still going to happen. Not unlikely. It's would be kind of a random change, except that, Ira said that's his favorite house. Maybe he's like, no, Beesbury's going to live. That's how. We want to see more of the honeycomb. And then we have Sir Humphrey Harding. Also, we don't know who he goes up against, but he also ends up dying in the novella. So now, the graphic novel has a completely different set of pairings. They're completely different than this, and they're completely different than what we think we get from the novella. So what I kind of think is it doesn't matter a lot, because I think we all get this mostly or entirely from Dunk's point of view, and he's not going to have any idea what else is going on elsewhere or who's fighting who. It's not only too chaotic to see, he's wearing this helm, and it's foggy. There's like 3 or 4 different reasons why he has no idea what is happening with anybody else. So that's probably going to be our experience as well. I'm guessing we're not going to get a whole lot of shots of other people fighting, though definitely get some, because there's some in the trailers, right? So we get at least that. But of course, we can expect it to mostly focus on Dunk versus Aerion. We have this interesting prayer here. We have L.J. Bennion, a non-binary actor, as the Septon. And the quote is, "May the Seven bear witness to our solemn and bloody offering. May they reveal the guilty in their falseness and find the truth. May the warrior grant victory to the innocent." There's a good chance there's more, because that's a very common thing in trailers, is to cut part of a long speech out. But because you would think maybe there's more than the warrior getting mentioned there, but maybe not, because it's a trial by combat type thing. So anyway,
well, you think they would at least mention the mother, given the name.
That's a good point.
The episode of the name of the mother, you definitely think they'll at least get to mother.
And comparing it to the past trial by Seven, which was Maegor's, he faced down the Grand Captain-led 7 of the Warrior Sons. So 7 Warrior Sons led by Sir Daemon Morgan, a.k.a. Daemon the Devout. And it is written that Daemon the Devout led a prayer, beseeching the warrior to grant strength to their arms. So one of them led the prayer in that case. So that's a little different. That one was also a lot bloodier. Maegor was the only one who survived that one, and barely. So the prayer is going to be solemn, but the crowd I don't know. They're probably excited or gasping or cheering. I don't know. It's not a big part of the novella because it's just Dunk is just too focused. He's things go well. The crowd reacts positively as the commoners do when he wins. But during, I don't recall him having much sense of what's going on with the crowd.
Well, it's nice because we see lots of shots of Egg in the crowd, which obviously we want to see what Egg's reactions are when we're watching. So I like that we do seem to see that.
You know what? They made good use of that all throughout the season because before that was a big addition, even though it was very small and subtle, it was showing Baelor's reactions to things when he was up on the stand. And that counted for a lot. So Egg doing it here is following along with that pattern, and it was pretty effective. So I expect it to be effective here because Dexter is really good at acting. Look at that. That's something. He's excited or not happy or whatever. I don't know what that is, but he's putting a lot of energy into it.
Is what he's doing.
He's projecting, yeah. He's acting.
He's using his outside voice.
He is using his outside voice. So Baelor, we get a little clip of presumably the strategy, the speech he gives, something like what's in the novella. He says, be vigilant, and then he says, don't die. There's almost certainly something in between that. We have Raymond and Dunk vomiting, and then we have Humphrey Harding laughing, probably at them vomiting, but there could be another trailer edit. I kind of look like Raymond's on a Baratheon horse, because he might not have his own war horse there. He wasn't supposed to go into the joust, right? He wasn't there for the joust. So just like Baelor. So
that brought me to another question: is that you notice, and I'll put the image up, that we see Raymond's green apple shield.
Yeah, look at that.
When did he have time to get that painted? Did he have a green apple ready to go?
In the book, he just says, "Give me 10 minutes to go do it," and he just paints it on. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
So they just skip that. He just had time to do it. He had told someone else to do it.
He definitely had some time to do something here. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the answer. Because I was wow, okay.
Now, sadly, y'all, or not so sadly, wildly, I don't know what you choose your own adjective. You can see the moment that Maekar hits Baelor in the back of the head here. It's in the trailer. It's just so fast that they could never possibly be worried about people who are going to understand what it is because you can't even tell who that is. You don't know who either of those Targaryens are other than that they're Targaryens. Yeah, we can. And so that is it. I don't know. We don't need to see that over and over, but that is it. You can see it. I'm glad that it's something you can see. So we actually have, it's interesting that it's not something that's lost to the mists like it could have been. It could have just been oh, look at that. His helm is caved in. We know who it was because no one else had a mace. The Kingsguard didn't hit him. All the stuff that gets brought up during the aftermath. So it looks like that's where we're going to go. So we'll leave you all with this last quote. The moment that Dunk turns the fight. And I think there's a good chance that there's a relation to the flashbacks here. But again, we're throwing all sorts of theories about where the flashbacks are going to come or not come. And here is that moment in the fight against Aerion where he turns the tide and starts to win.
He could vanquish Sir Duncan the Tall, but not Dunk of Fleabottom. The old man had taught him jousting and swordplay, but this sort of fighting he had learned earlier in shadowy wines and crooked alleys behind the city's wine sinks. And, it makes more sense for that to be a 10-year-old than a 5 or 6-year-old that's thinking of those stories, by the way.
Good point. So, in the novella, Aerion yields not long after he has this realization and starts to win. It's pretty funny. He is terrible with the lance. Aerion outlances him badly. Then Aerion bashes him several times with the mace or flail rather. But once they're both disarmed, that's it. It's Dunk wins. Once it comes down to no weapons, then he starts to win pretty badly. So it gives you an idea of what's to come. If they've stuck to the novel pretty well, like I said, they'll probably take some leeway because it's just such a different thing. The adaptation of combat is such a big deal. Forces them to do certain things and gives them an opportunity to do certain things. I'm mostly thinking about the cool things that we'll get to see put on screen, things that will make us forget to think. We know what's going to happen and we'll still be drawn in. That's how it's been so far. And I expect that this, with all its intensity, is going to be the peak of that this season. Again, I want to hear from you all about your unsullied friends and family and how they react not just to the action but to the tragedy. So let us know. When y'all watch Sunday night or Monday, tune into our regular live stream and post it in the chat there, or just send it to us if you're feeling it that way. Post it to us on social media. All right, what happened with the poll, Ashea? Do people think they're going to keep it the same, or that they might tweak who lives and dies?
No, it was very one-sided. Same as novella, 83%. Different from novella, 17%.
17% it's a decent chunk of y'all think it'll be different. Well, if you all 17%ers were gambling, you'd have odds here. So we'll see what happens. And if y'all need something to entertain you in the meantime, not only could you rewatch the episodes, you could re-listen to our episodes on this. And you can catch me over on Twitch as I play a Duncan Egg campaign over there. It's twitch.tv History of Westeros, or /History of Westeros, that is. And then, so see me over there and or on Monday at 6 for our full review of In the Name of the Mother. Enjoy the episode, and you know what to do. Valar Rereadus.